Derek, how you doing tonight, man? Good to see you.
Hey, what's up, brother? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you, right? You're a
I'm
busy
good.
man, getting stuff done every day of the week, in person, online. You're like a man of many spaces all the time. How you been?
Well, I drove for 7.5 hours today and just got out of the car a couple hours ago. So I'm having my midnight smoothie before bed and got another 7 hour drive tomorrow. I'm on the last couple days of the Mexico activation tour. We've been on the road for 5 weeks now, spreading the message around Mexico.
Yeah, I've been seeing your post, man. I think it's amazing. You get to do so much in person doing the work, whereas a lot of people are tied to just like their outlet is online, but you do it online and in person. And then this past week, you wrote this incredible article, but I don't want to talk to you about that article. I want to talk to you about the article you wrote in November about wait, no, it's this one. It's this one. Because I thought this was
And
awesome. The
what's up,
Great
Ryan?
Narrative in the Metaverse, Part One.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Let me put it on the screen because I think it ties in. It's Klaus Schwab and Dubai and UAE and all the sort of stuff we're seeing in this past week in the other article that we'll get to in a second. But there was a lot of good parts in here that I thought, I just wanted to put it on people's radar about this great narrative conference. And then the human rights violations of the UAE that's hosting the current World Government Summit, right? It's all so like 6 months ago, some of the problems that they were discussing about, hey, this is kind of baggage, is now here's the new article. While you were distracted by Will Smith, the international elitists met at the World Government Summit. I didn't see the article right away. I saw you tweet about it before you published it. And I was like, what? Because all I had seen is the slap, bro. All I was seeing was Chris Rock and Will Smith. And I'm like, what are you talking about? There's a World Government Summit. And then when I get into your article and I dig into it and I get into the source material and watching these videos, I'm like, these people have done this before. Why didn't I know about this? Did you know about this? Have you covered this in past years? Oh, you're muted.
Could you repeat that again, Richard? I'm sorry
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
cut in and out. I have an unstable connection
Not
here,
a
brother.
problem, bro. And I won't keep you too long either, but I did want to plug this fine work because like
I appreciate it.
sometimes, internet doesn't really get to read all the stuff that you write. And I wanted to point out this is this
Hey,
the
Richard,
first year?
can I jump in real quick? I'm just going to go ahead and say, because I want to let you guys talk with Derek. I know I
Yeah.
thought there was going to be an overlap or whatever, but I'll let you guys get into it. Derek does such great work for TLAV, and I hope you guys check out these articles because they are out amazing. Like they really are. Like this has been blowing up TLAV's site for the last couple of days, and it's exactly what you guys missed if you were focused on the slap. We were just talking about that, Derek, the slap. So it's kind of a funny crossover, but I'll let you guys chat. Hey, thanks for having me on, guys, and nice talking with the audience and everybody else. So have a
Right
good one.
on, Ryan. Yeah, we'll catch you
Have a
later.
great night, Ryan.
Yeah. So my question was like, I didn't know about this World Government Conference and I was a little incredulous. I saw your tweet. I was like, because it was April 1st. And I thought maybe Derek's got an April Fool's joke. And then I saw it was a real thing. I was like, oh, geez, I got to catch up. So did you know about this conference in years before?
No, actually, I feel see for me, because it has been happening for I think 5, 6 years at least. And Elon Musk spoke at it before. Definitely been some power players involved before, but I felt like I was slacking a little bit for not knowing that it was happening at this, in years past. But it seems like with everything going on, and like you were just saying, in relation to the Great Narrative Summit, it seems extremely important. And not to jump the gun too much, but for me, one of the insights that I didn't really include in the article is I think that the Great Narrative meeting in the UAE and this are indicative that in the New World Order, the UAE is going to play a major role for sure.
Yeah, I thought that was very telling because I didn't know about the World Government Summit. I didn't catch your article on the metaverse until I think I finished reading the first article, and then it's like, oh, there's the metaverse article, and I clicked that open. I went back and read that one. Is there a part two to that one yet?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, they're
All right.
both listed on the Last American Vagabond. I think Ryan has a page for my articles, and there's actually a page for there's a few articles that I've done, 2 or 3 parts, and that one is one of the most recent ones I've done.
I think it was
Yes.
Kemp that was saying that Dubai would be this technological industrial center for the World Economic Forum or something to that affects it, which is
Well,
in
it's
the
like a
UAE,
place they
which is
built from
interesting.
scratch to
Yeah.
demonstrate future cities and kind of what you can
Yeah,
do
you got
with
it.
narco-terrorism
That's
money if no one's looking at
also
the
a
books
major
from
port.
BCCI.
Sure.
Before Dubai, there was BCCI and a bunch of money went missing. from a bunch of people who are still players today. So I don't know, but yeah, they do. They seem to have that, because when they showed, there was a presentation they did in the source material about designing cities of the future, and they have a heat map of where populations are condensed, and they're right in the middle of like 2/3 of the world populations in Asia, like in that one quadrant, and they're like in the middle of it. So they make it like the London or DC or Paris of the future, because these other cities are going to have to be renovated in the Great Reset and get smart citied up like they're going to do in New York. I mean, part of what they did in COVID was, get a whole bunch of people
I think they've
out
already done a lot of that infrastructure.
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
honest.
Bezos bought up tons of land. Schmidt from Google, they bought up tons of land in New York City. So yeah, I see the
Hudson
trends
Valley.
you're pointing out, and they're consistently like proving you right in what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that, so I definitely do encourage you, Richard, as well as anybody who hasn't read it, to go read both parts of that great narrative article there, because it just, it outlines everything that they were talking about, and we're already kind of seeing it come to fruition. And then in relation to the World Government Summit, it's fun whenever you get an opportunity to take a pop culture, this pretty meaningless, like, oh, Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, and use it in a way like this. Like Ryan said, right now it's definitely been, I think on our website alone, not to mention aggregation and reposts from other website, I think we're pretty close to surpassing 100,000 unique views of the article just in the last few days. So it's getting out there, it's being reposted to other places, and that's part of my strategy. Was like, you know what, I see the moment, everybody's talking about this thing that I barely heard about because I've been on the road, and there's this world government thing. Well, let's just put those two things together. I only mention it in the first sentence. It's just the pull in for people who might not read it otherwise, right? To see like, oh, what's this all about?
It's like
But
reverse
ultimately,
clickbait
as I said,
from an
yeah,
authoritative
exactly.
position. You're like shaming us. You were shaming. I had shared some Chris Rock funny haha memes and Will Smith, and then I see that and I'm like, oh, I got work to do. And it was like a good call to action.
I like that
good,
reverse clickbait.
Yeah. I think that's powerful. It's as powerful as the idea of the Great Reset or the Greater Reset, right? Like circumnavigating their ideas. So yeah, let's use that. Let's move that idea before.
Well, I think that one of the things to take away from not only my article, but just from the meeting, for one, for anybody who hasn't read it, please go take some time. It's not extremely long. I tried to just squeeze it in. It was really like, again, a spur of the moment. I'm like, I have a day off on tour, I'm writing this article. This is a moment I could tap into the zeitgeist for the moment, and people will share it. But I mean, I don't think I've seen, other than we all have seen the clips of George Bush and all the different presidential figures and prime ministers kind of referencing New World Order, but they're literally saying, are we ready for a New World Order? And like the panel right after Klaus Schwab, and just the kind of out in the openness is it's astounding. I mean, it's not really surprising for those of us who've been paying attention. But I do think, again, you mentioned some of the smart cities aspects or the future cities. I included in there, one of the panels was about human meta cities, which is a term we're going to probably hear more about. And I did a little bit of research trying to find any other references to it. I did see a couple of like UN documents on the United Nations Habitat website, where they talk about like a meta city is basically, like you were saying, a future city, a city of the future. It's a metropolis, but it's kind of bringing in the technology, and it's a place where there's going to be industry and commerce and all this stuff. And they try to make it sound like, the best thing anybody would want to live in. But I think to those of us who know what's going on, that it's going to be a digital prison. And I think also in relation to the UAE, the younger generation of, His Holiness, His Highness, as they like to refer to themselves, they are trying to really play themselves as the young progressive generation of, this human rights abusing regime that has been around. And so they're totally trying to spin themselves as, we're the young global leaders. We're here to bring in technology. They had a whole day dedicated to how can women, be a part of this agenda, and how do we, bring the kids sustainable development goals, and how are women going to accomplish sustainable development goals. So they're definitely trying to put the veneer of progressive, social justice, etc., on top of their plans.
Yeah, it's a good rebranding for them. And Klaus is like, he's into it, because he's like, look, everything here is new. Everyone dresses in white. This looks really good with the blue background, these sort of things. Like it's totally globalism 101 from like the you'll own nothing and like it 2030 kind of agenda that they're putting out there. So I didn't know I didn't know the Atlantic Council had anything to do with it either, because I kind of follow what those dudes are up to. And like Kemp's like, oh, this is the 8th time I've given this talk, and I'm like, oh, like how are these guys off the radar? They're neocons. They're hanging out with Kagan and Victoria Nuland. Like they're known as far as they exist and what they're doing, but I just didn't see how it was off my radar. So I'm glad it was kind of like not on your radar too much before I got to your article. And it wasn't like something like it's been going on. We've been going to the conference and covering this for 8 years, Grove, and you didn't pay attention to it. No, I'm glad.
No, I think maybe more of us were slipping on it and sleeping on it, because I honestly hadn't really heard anybody else mention it either previously. So I think it's just another thing that we all need to be paying attention to, in addition to the, because as you know, Richard and Tony, like that it's like the Bilderberg or the Trilateral Commission, and you get your energy onto one little group, but then over here they've got new groups forming, and new, roundtable front groups and things like that. So it's not just the WEF that we should be paying attention to. It's the World Government Summit, and it's the Atlantic Council. It's all the different groups involved in there. And they're clearly making some plans for this year. Like I mentioned in the article, they talk about Ukraine. They talk about, the world after oil and net zero, sustainable development.
Net zero is the big one. Yeah. ESG. Yeah. That was huge. And that kind of, because like one of the things to sort of to piggyback what you're saying there, Derek, is there's the Trilateral, there's the WEF, there's the Atlantic Council, there's all these disparate groups, but like what are the common themes amongst those groups? So I think that's the important thing, to why we should be aware of what are the general themes they're all talking about, and where do they sort of overlap? Because then we can get an idea of like what's the major sort of like meta theme, that's not to bring in the whole metaverse but meta theme that they all are aligning to. And the thing I see is sort of this like future development through technology based on the sort of like impending climate change narrative they keep like bolstering and perpetuating forward. And so that's something I've been noticing, whether it's bringing in different blocks of countries to talk about it. That seems to be somewhat of like what the World Summit's talking about, the World Economic Forum in Davos. So they have like a positioning geographically in the planet, getting certain countries to come together. It's like seemingly getting everyone onto the same page under these different summits, different groups, so forth and so on. Have you noticed anything of that nature, or like any sort of like meta theme or general themes that sort of span over all of these different sort of organizations?
Well, I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head, that more people need to be paying attention to ESG. People have become familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals over the years. People are familiar with social credit scores, but the ESG is a big part of that. And right now, the way we're hearing about is ESG in terms of corporations. How are the corporations going to have their environmental, social, governance criteria, et cetera? But I am one of the people who is of the belief, and maybe you guys are as well, that it's eventually that is what will be applied to people, individuals, and that'll be part of the social credit.
I actually have an example of that. That's right. I have a friend that works in the corporate world, and she's being pressured right now in order to, she runs her own business and she interfaces with Fortune 500 companies. And she was telling me like the big pressure she's experiencing right now is ESG, to adopt ESG principles. And that's just going to be a slow drip, sort of frog in boiling water analogy or cliche at this point of what's going on, because it's going to force us all to engage with these sustainability goals and governance and whatnot. So.
And little companies aren't going to be able to afford to do that. And that's how they weed out the non-globalist companies to have only globalist homogenized future, the same way that you put weed killer on your lawn to have only one type of grass grow on it. ESG.
Guys, I hate to burn off so quick, but I am going to have to get out of here in a minute, Richard.
No, that's good. I was about to let you off the hook because I know you got to sleep before you drive again and travel and all this stuff. Can I
mention one more thing to you?
Yeah.
I just want to plug this because Richard, you and I got to speak recently and do an interview that is for the Pyramid of Power series. And I just want to mention, because we're working on that right now. We're actually going to be releasing our trailer for season 3. For those who are unaware, halfway done with a 16-part documentary series called The Pyramid of Power. You can find it at thepyramidofpower.net. We can watch season 1 and season 2 for free. And Richard is going to be featuring pretty heavily into season 3 and season 4. We're doing 4 episodes at a time. So I'm actually just finishing kind of reworking the script and working our interview into the chapter on the foundations, the roundtable groups, etc. So you'll be in that episode, as well as the banking cartel, and there's probably a couple others that I'm going to end up getting you in, and I might come back with you for a few questions. But yeah, so I'm excited to get that out. That we're hoping, if everything goes well, to start releasing the new episodes by May, the first week of May, and every Friday in May we're going to drop 4 more. And so you'll be featured in that, and if anybody wants to check that out.
Outstanding. I'm glad. Hopefully some of the clips that I, contributed weren't too hard to edit, because I know it's not so succinct. It's a struggle, I'm sure. So I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. And that's wonderful, man. Because I think the like kind of docu-series format where I get a continual pulse on a topic over a couple weeks, right? Like Aaron and Melissa just did the trust game, and when I got early access to that on Vimeo, I didn't get to see all of it. I made it through like the first 4 episodes, but then my schedule took over and I lost the tab, right? But then when they put it out like once a week, I can hit it up after my Friday night lecture, and I'm like, oh, I got a new trust game I can check out, and I'm looking forward to getting more pyramid of power under my belt as you come out with this new season. And again, it's just another thing that you're doing besides the writing and the traveling and the in-person activism and hosting conferences and being an inspiration, and not like dragging people down. Like, these are dark topics a lot of times, but you bring intellect and you bring soul and courage and charisma and a whole bunch of inspiration through your work. So on behalf of me and anyone who needs a voice in this conversation, thank you, dude. Thank you for what you do.
You
I
do
should
a
have
great
thanked
job.
Ryan like that too. I owe that
Yeah.
to Ryan too, because
You do a great job transmuting the negativity and finding practical solutions and attempting to instantiate them. So
it's like you're
Yeah, kudos to you
de-ionizing
guys.
these polar kind of radioactive topics. So, and when you guys hand them to us, it's like, no, this is safe and palatable and it's useful.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, guys. Both of you, I appreciate that, and I know Ryan appreciates the support as well. And I can just say again, I'll second that Ryan's amazing work. And honestly, whenever I've been working with Ryan almost for 2 years now, coming up in this May. Ryan reached out to me a couple months after the pandemic began. We had kind of crossed paths a little bit here and there, but Ryan and his amazing work, he just wanted to support what I'm doing and basically said, I want to hire you. You can write about anything you want, whatever you want, just contribute. And so it's been great collaborating with The Last American Vagabond, and just continuing to do my appreciate the opportunity to promote the article. And again, anybody who hasn't checked it out, if you've got some friends who are trying to talk to you about Chris Rock and Will Smith, especially now, I just saw that Saturday Night Live just did an episode, a skit about it. So I'm sure more people are probably talking about it. It's a good time to share that article still. So I thank you for
Fantastic. Get some rest, safe travels. We'll catch up with you soon. Thank you, Derek.
Yeah, fantastic work. Yeah.